Ron, Mama D here. Happy Father's Day to you. You never know what little Ron herds or RTC2s are running around. And they just didn't tell you.
This is We All Be News and Radio.
Ron Hurd. Get up out of bed. Let's go. Let's go. Ron Hurd. That's the word. Get out of bed. Give me a jingle. My number is 051. Get out of bed. Let's go. Don't be afraid. This is Herb Smith calling you. Herb Smith. All right, I know you're famous and all that kind of stuff, but let's go. Get out of bed.
And welcome, Black family, to another wonderful edutainment edition of the Artivist Presents We All Be News and Radio. I'm your host for the empowerment segment, Brother Ron, also known as R2, C2, H2, the Artivist. And you are in the zone. I am out of bed. I'm not in bed anymore. I'm out. I'm up and I'm ready to go. So please feel free if you want to join this important conversation, this dynamic conversation on this dynamic platform. Please call in area code 646-652-4593. Once again, that's area code 646-652-4593. If you're scared to go on the air, we're going to open up the chat room very shortly. You can type in your questions, comments, concerns, and complaints, whatever you want to type in. It might be read live on the air to our very distinguished and honorable guests. And we will get to our guests with no delay. We got the 99th annual ASALH, I believe I'm saying it right, convention coming up. This is the organization that was founded by the late, great Dr. Carter G. Woodson, who's also the second black person that we know of to get a PhD from Harvard University. The first one being Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, but he's also the father of Black History Month, which started out, I believe, as Negro History Week back in the day, but he founded this organization. This is his living legacy. So tonight's show is the 99th annual ASALH Convention Preview, Civil Rights in America. That's the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. And we got a very distinguished and honorable panel who is actually coming to us from the Executive Council of that great, wonderful, venerable organization. And without further delay, we're going to get to them right now. And welcome them to the family. I believe this is the good Dr. Sheila Flemming-Hunter on the air with us.
Yes, it is. Ron too.
All right, great. Archie, that's fine. Brother Ron, this is great to have you on. You are actually the co-founder with your daughters of the Black Rose Foundation, and also you are part of the Executive Council of ASALH. I think I'm saying it right. Is that the way y'all pronounce it with the letters, or how y'all pronounce it?
We say ASALH. Repeat
ASALH.
ASALH, yes.
ASALH. Okay, I got it. ASALH. Okay, all right, sounds good. Okay, so we got you on the air.
Another name that
yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Better to refer to.
Go ahead.
Another name that's easier for us is the one that it was referred to until late in the 20th century, and that is the Association. Dr. Carter G. Woodson and his comrades referred to it as the Association.
The Association.
Because
I like that.
The Association for the Negro Life and History at first.
Well, but they referred to it as the Association.
Yes.
It sounds like a mafia thing, like La Cosa Nostra, our thing. It sounds very like mafia style. So this is the association. I like it, the commission. I like it. I get it. I dig it. And I think also we got coming out of the D.C. area, Brother Roy. Are you there?
I am, Brother Ron. Good evening to you and Sheila.
Hi,
Glad to be with you this evening. Glad
to have you on.
Yes, sir. So I'm so thrilled and grateful for this opportunity. It's a wonderful job that you're doing through We Be All. Internet radio is a powerful medium, and we just are so thankful for this opportunity. The association, as Dr. Fleming pointed out, is, I guess back in the day, they were really a powerful group, powerful men who had a vision, and they saw a great need that needed to be met. America's history, America's story was being written, and African Americans, black people, were not included. They were being written completely out of the history, ignored. It was as if we made no contribution to the building of this country and this world. And Dr. Woodson certainly knew better, and his associates, and that led to the founding of the association and ultimately Negro History Week. Another thing you might consider too is that, you know, we are the founders of Black history. When you reference the association, that means when Black History Month is observed every February, it is the association that designates the theme, the annual theme. This year's annual theme is Civil Rights in America. And so when President Obama or any sitting president issues a proclamation declaring African American History Month or Black History Month, they consult the association for the theme. And they use that theme on the proclamation, and that proclamation goes to every government agency and department. It's also picked up by Fortune 100, Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 corporations and private industry. Black History Month is observed not only by government agencies but private industry as well. It's an extremely popular month of the year.
Maybe before we get too deep into the conversation, you, Brother Roy Betts, you actually are the Senior Public Relations Representative for the United States Postal Service. So that's a very nice title to have, and also you're very deep into media as far as your background goes. You worked all over the place in the industry, correct?
Yes, I had an opportunity to work for Ebony and Jet magazines, Johnson Publishing Company, early in my career. I covered President Jimmy Carter's administration, had an opportunity to work out of the White House, travel aboard Air Force One, visited Africa and South America with President Carter. At that time, President Carter was the first American president to visit as a head of state to Africa in the late 70s. So, yes, and I have since worked in public service, working with the U.S. Department of Commerce before coming to the United States Postal Service, where I have a hand in, among other things, announcing all of the new stamps that we issue every year. And one of the most important stamps of the year is, of course, our Black Heritage stamp. Mm-hmm. This year we honored Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm.
Mm. Okay, also this is kind of like this convention coming up next week, September 24th through the 28th. This is sort of like a homecoming to you because you're a Memphis homeboy, correct? You went to Central High School back in the day?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so how you feel?
Yes, sir. Hey, I'm excited. I couldn't be more thrilled that the association selected my hometown, Memphis, to be the host city for the 99th annual convention. With a theme, Civil Rights in America, Memphis is the perfect place to host this historic occasion. Memphis is rich in civil rights history. Yes, of course, we know it's the place where Dr. King was assassinated, but it's also very rich Beale Street, B.B. King, Ida B. Wells, you name it. There is just a tremendous amount of history there in Memphis, and so we're just, again, very, very honored, and we look forward to having a great convention.
Now, Dr. Sheila, also, you got some Memphis roots as well. I want to delve into your background a little bit because you're very accomplished and very distinguished yourself. You're not no small-time person here as well. I mean, you got some very nice credits to your resume.
Yeah, well, the Lord is good, and I've had some. I've been blessed, and I am a historian by training. Mm-hmm. I'm a graduate of Bethune-Cookman University and Atlanta University and Howard University. So I've studied history on 3 levels in the academy, and my major interest has been teaching history and being an academic administrator. And my research is in African American and African history, especially on women. So yes, and that's why I am a member of the organization. I was became aware of ASALH when I was a graduate student. Well, actually, undergraduate at Bethune-Cookman, and then became more active under my professor and mentor, Dr. Clarence Bakota at Atlanta University, which is now Clark Atlanta University. Mm-hmm. So I have, been related to it for some years now, and just in the last 10 years or so, became more involved in the organization and helping with the leadership on the executive council. I served as the national president in 2004, 2006. And I was humbled to do so because Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, my shero, was the first female national president of ASALH. Back then, it was called the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History. We didn't get the name until later in the 21st century, but the 20th century. I was really wanting people to know. I guess because I'm a historian, I like to place things in context. Right. And I wanted people to really understand what was happening in America for black people in 1915. Mm-hmm. And the circumstances upon which ASALH was founded. We hear Dr. Carter G. Woodson's name all the time as the founder, but there were 4 founders of ASALH. And a lot of people know that, as you have said, Ron, that Woodson was the second graduate of Harvard, PhD, black PhD from Harvard, behind W.E.B. Du Bois. And but there were 4 other people: Willie Hargrave, George Cleveland Hall, and A.L. Jackson, as well as James Stamps. As a matter of fact, A.C. Jackson was a Fisk and a Yale graduate, and Cleveland Hall was on the board of the Urban League in Chicago. ASALH was founded in 1915 in Chicago at the local YMCA there, and Jackson, who I mentioned, was the director of it. So these were some high-powered guys getting together to do something that needed to be done. We have all celebrated either a sorority or fraternities, centennial. We've celebrated the centennial of a number of organizations, and especially churches. So now it's time for us to celebrate all of Black America, and that's what we want to do with our centennial. But we want people to know that, we've come a long ways from 1915, and although our leadership very well off, they really wanted to, in terms of having academic accomplishments, they set out to do something very high purpose. Our national president, Dr. Darrell Scott, who is in the history department at Howard University, a professor there, he's published some things about Woodson and the beginning of ASALH. And on our website, www.asalh.org, he wrote, and I just want to quote this, and we could move on, but I want people to understand who founded us, what we are celebrating, and where we were in 1915, and what we've come through as a people in every aspect of life, not just, Greece, just not faith, just not arts, but everything, and that's what ASALH is about. making sure that we pull all these things together to celebrate who we are and to give us purpose. But let me just read this from Darrell, our national president. The creation, and he says, the small gathering had a high purpose. Those 4 men I just mentioned. The creation of an organization to demonstrate to the world a truth that had been everywhere assaulted, that people of African descent had contributed significantly to the making of civilization and the movement of human history. And so we, at the time, up until this time, the major historians and the people who were writing about us, really only just mentioning us as a footnote here and there, history was not, the academic arena especially, those who were writing history were not writing the history of people of African descent. And if they were, it was very derogatory and had a perspective that really defies all odds because, in fact, we were just the opposite. We were descendants of, the civilizations throughout Africa. But no one had written about that. No one was talking about that in the way that we can celebrate. And so that's what Dr. Woodson and the other 3 founders of ASALH wanted to make sure that we organize in an academic, that's very, very similar to all the other national organizations in the academy who celebrate or who write about the history of Americans, of, other peoples. But at the time, there were organizations that were organized to write the history of white America, but there was no organization that would focus on writing the history, but not only history. Our organizations are not only about the history of America, but celebrating life and culture. And so that's why we are called the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, because we want people to know and to be grateful and happy that they are black in America, and not just blacks. We know that it's very important for all of Americans to be educated about who we are, who we were, and that we play a major role in this society today as we did in the beginning of this country.
I'm glad you brought up.
If I could just chime in here, real quick, to just add to what Sheila is saying here. Dr. Fleming makes a very interesting point that American history was being written, and African Americans or blacks or Negroes back in that day were compartmentalized. They were marginalized, and their contributions, a lot of people basically never got beyond slavery, and had no context and no sense of how African Americans were great builders, great engineers, great inventors, and oftentimes their inventions were stolen, and they were never given credit. And so being able to document and research and record and then disseminate information not only to African Americans, to blacks, but to the masses, to the world. So America's story can never be told truthfully and not include African American story. African American history and American history are essentially one and the same. You can't have American history and exclude African American history. So that's why today ASALH is as necessary, as important in 2014, and as we look forward to 2015, our centennial year, we are as important and needed today as we were when Dr. Woodson and the other gentlemen founded this organization in 1915.
I definitely agree, man. I'm saying so much, and people need to hear this rich history of our people's song and culture. And just speaking of Mary McLeod Bethune, that's somebody that's been kind of forgotten about by our people overall. I mean, she was such an extraordinary human being and person who was a true visionary. And I remember talking to some of the old timers in Memphis. You talk about Memphis have this rich black history, this rich civil rights history. I remember a good friend of mine, he talked about how Mayor McLeod Bethune actually spoke at a joint graduation for Hamilton and Manassas High School back in, I believe, either 46 or 1947 at Mason Temple.
Oh, yeah.
She was the keynote. You know, and also the fact.
Let me tell you.
Go ahead.
Make smile.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I thought it's true. Okay. I'm listening.
She
Go ahead,
is
Dr.
my
Sheila.
shero. I'm a historian of Mary McLeod Bethune. In fact, I write about her. I have written about her, and I admire her among, all others in African American history. But you're right. She was a sought-after speaker. And when we look at the, the luminaries in our particularly in the early 20th century, let's say from 1900 to 1950, in the first part of the century, she was really the next to, of course, this was long before, well, not long before, but Martin Luther King and all of that we're talking about here. So she was among women in particular, especially black women. She was the first black woman to be, black to be head of a federal government department. And she advised 5 presidents of the United States. And, even locally, if you think about it, in black communities, almost all where there are, in that community itself, there are lots of Mary McLeod Bethune elementary schools throughout the country. Now, some of them have gone out. I guess they have done away with the schools because of the different growth in areas of public education, and that's perhaps why you think she, you don't hear a lot about her. But she was a phenomenal woman, and she was always ready to partner with organizations, and that's what happens with her and Dr. Woodson. They become very close friends, and she is the longest president ASALH has ever had. She served longer than any other president, and that's because I think a black man and a black woman saw the needs to help each other out and partner, so that's what they did. She understood that her prominence in government with the presidents, with the Democrat, Republican parties, and reaching across racial lines. She was known for that it would help ASALH, and it did. And at the same time, she was an educator. That's what she was about with Bethune-Cookman. And so they were very helpful and very complimentary in their goals and helped our people move forward.
Would it be safe to say that Mary McLeod Bethune was Oprah before there was an Oprah Winfrey? I mean, she really was very influential during her time before there was internet and things of that nature. And I also like to add, too, that she actually founded Bethune-Cookman. She founded that school. Because a lot of folks make the mistake. A lot of HBCUs were not founded by black people. Booker T. Washington did not found Tuskegee Institute. He was appointed. So people always make the mistake to say he founded, but Bethune, he actually founded Bethune-Cookman. She actually founded that school.
And that's and Bethune-Cookman is my alma mater. She founded it as a girls' school with 5 girls. We say 5 girls, faith in God, and $1.50.
Right.
That was the mantra. And look where we are today. We're a university. Yes.
And she faced down the Klan, too. She faced down the Klan down there. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, yes. She prayed the Klan away, and they're amazing about that. You know the history.
I mean, we got to know about this stuff. I think we'll do better. We always talk about twerking and all this other stuff, what's wrong with our kids. They have no knowledge of self. A lot of us don't have no knowledge of self. So how can you have a vision for the future without knowledge of self? Okay, Brother Roy, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, well, just to pick up on that point, I borrowed a phrase from a great humanitarian, author, journalist, Alelia Bundles, who is a major supporter of the association. And she was speaking at an event, and she coined the phrase, and I attribute it to her, but it might not be actually her quote, but I'll say it anyway. And it essentially says, know thy history, know thyself.
That's right.
And what Woodson and his colleagues put in place was a prescription to enhance and uplift the spirit and the inner being, the inner man, the inner woman of black people, giving them self-worth, self-esteem, knowing that they were great and are great people, and their story simply was not being told either at all, or it was being misrepresented, was being, people were outright lying, and so his movement, in many ways, I think, helped to elevate the self-respect and self-esteem that our people so greatly needed. And fast forward to today, you see, it's our history that is going to lead us back to having greater self-respect for one as an individual as well as collectively as a people. Because if you understand your history, you have a greater appreciation of just how great you really are, and how much greater we can become going forward. So this convention that we're going to have in Memphis, for example, is going to bring some brilliant men and women who have done tremendous research and study on the state of civil rights in America, where we have come from, where we are presently, and even a look ahead to the future with respect to the state of civil rights. And so people who are in Memphis, who are listening to this program, or even the surrounding areas, and it's not too late to register and come and be a part of this historic occasion, because we're going to have a dialogue, a discussion, and there will be, I believe, some real solutions. Some people are going to talk about things that we really need to be doing collectively to take the civil rights movement into the 21st century. So we really are excited again about being in Memphis, knowing the history there, and the association will certainly, I think, lay the foundation as we move forward, looking ahead to our centennial celebration in 2015. But it all starts in Memphis, and it goes forward.
Now, just to give people some idea of what our conventions are like, and this demonstrates the genius of our founders, because up to this time, and since, not since, had scholars tried to have scholars come together with lay people who support history and who support the arts and support culture, came together to form an organization. Because, while the membership started off being the scholars and still are mainly scholars, we have a number of branches throughout the country that support Black life and history in their local communities, and they are part of our organization. So much like it was kind of like the NACP from that perspective, but it is also, where scholars from all universities, and it started from the beginning that white universities or white people were joined this organization because it was an academic organization where people would study and write history. And, of course, you know that the Journal of Negro History was founded the next year by Dr. Woodson and A.L.L. And so it continues today, and it is the premier, in other words, the #1 journal that publishes work about Black American history and life. And so next year we'll be celebrating the centennial of our journal, now called the Journal of African American Life and History. And so scholars from all over the country write about Black American life and history, and the journal has received awards as well. So it's very competitive with all, regardless of race or ethnicity with academic background.
Sheila, would you say, would it be fair to say that any individual, any student who has received a degree, either undergraduate or even at the graduate level, doctoral programs on this subject, in many ways have benefited from the work of the association?
Oh, no question about that, but that was the magnanimous spirit of the founders as well, understanding that, we could not move forward. And you mentioned it earlier, Roy, about the importance of people knowing who they are, but also knowing the history and how it relates to who they are today. People often hear history and say, "Oh, it's back here." And Ron, you mentioned it as well. Knowing about Mary McLeod Bethune, knowing about Willie Hargrove and A.C. Jackson and his guys who formed this organization, it should empower you to think that. And I always say this about Mary McLeod Bethune: that she was born just at the end of in 1875, and just at the end of slavery. She was the first child born free in her family of 15 or 17 children. And she rose from cotton in South Carolina to advise 5 presidents of the United States, a Black woman. I mean, to think that she did that then, had to walk so far to school, miles and miles there and back, when she was educated in South Carolina in her first years. And how we take these things for granted now. It also means to me, though, it should leave more time for us to be creative and to think about our contributions because we stand on their shoulders. Right. It's our responsibility to do. And that's what we have to train our children. And the way to do it is to empower them through knowing who they are.
That's definitely true. And also, I was thinking about what you just said. I was thinking about what would Dr. Carter G. Woodson and Mary McLeod Bethune and the founders say today about the state of Black America? So I read Carter G. Woodson's Miseducation of the Negro, and to me, he would want that book to not be relevant. It should be obsolete now. Like when I listen to Malcolm X speeches from the 60s or 50s about police brutality, that really should be obsolete right now. That shouldn't even be relevant today. Or Dr. King's speeches. None of those speeches should be relevant. They should be like in a museum somewhere where we study. They shouldn't be cautionary tales today. So what do you think they would say about all this going on right now, 100 years later?
Yeah, but you know what? We have to deal with it, and because I think the elephant in the room, as you say, meaning, it's so obvious, but everybody's afraid to talk about it, and that is race. We talk about that, we're afraid to talk about it, and people, use terms like, playing the race card or, what does race have to, why do we have to go back to that? But what we have just said is the reason why we have to go back to it, because we never left it. You were saying, what all the things you just said is we are still there in many ways. And the big difference, I just said, Mary McLeod Bethune had to walk miles and miles to get education. She had to fight. I mean, people told her she couldn't, she was Black. She didn't need to learn how to read and write. And now it's freely available to us. And it's freely available to us. However, we're still dealing with the race issue as well.
Yes, and I also think that there is fundamentally a need to address the self-esteem and self-worth that individuals have. Now, we know that the vast majority of African Americans are law-abiding, tax-paying, hard-working men and women. We know that we would like to believe that our children are at least seeing the need for education and the importance of education, because what I find is that today's generation of youth, they are seeing education as an opportunity to potentially go the route of entrepreneurship and business ownership, which is a good thing. I think we need more successful African-American-owned businesses, and not necessarily going to college to get a job, but to learn, introduce businesses that will employ more of our people. But then there is an element that gets played up in the media night after night after night that tends to overshadow the positive aspects of our community. And so it's like these negative elements have a way of clouding the overall picture of what is going on in our community. And so I think that I go back to the point of history and how we as a people have overcome so much. The history books will reveal how much we have overcome and how we have survived and actually thrived in under circumstances that potentially other groups might not have come through as successful as we have. But there's a fundamental belief that has to take place where people will want to pursue academic excellence, see that it's not a bad thing to further one's education. It's a good thing to be more positive about one's outlook in terms of how you participate in life. I mean, we've got people who want to take the position that, hey, I don't want to vote because my vote's not going to make a difference. That's ludicrous. You have to participate in the system to improve the system. And so, again, historically, it's proven that when we come together collectively, we make a difference. And we have in some ways, gotten away from that. And so I think that we need to embrace history. I know we've got a generation of people who say, hey, I'm too busy trying to make history to learn from it. And
I think, Roy, also, I think we want to point out, though, that the life of our organization is very important, just as important as history. And so we want to make sure that people understand we began as an organization collecting and writing history, doing the research and publishing and the information. The organization has that life. It's about life as well as history. So we celebrate as well and let people know. You mentioned it earlier, Roy, making sure people know about what's going on in Black America today, making sure that is forward as well. You mentioned it, and, you know, the things that are happening, and I know, again, the elephant in the room is Ferguson, Missouri, and what happened there, but, that, it's replicated throughout the country, and it's scary in many ways, reminiscent of stuff in 1915 and 1920.
Right.
So, the organization is about life as well and what's going on in Black America. We have a couple of initiatives from our national office in Washington, D.C., and in fact, the national office is on the campus of Howard University. We are looking to do more in this life area as well. And with our centennial, we'll talk about that perhaps later, but just so people know that next year we will be celebrating our 100th anniversary. And we're going to be doing a number of things to celebrate that. But we want to make sure that we are taking this information we know about ourselves, not only history, but sociology and political science and economics, because, people in our organization, in all those disciplines. So we are an interdisciplinary organization. So we aren't just about the past. We also have interest in what's going on now and the reality of America. Our editor of our journal is very interested in reparations, and in our journal we've had articles about reparations for black people. And so while we have a lot of information on history in our journals, we also have that life side of what's really going on with Black America today in the political arena, the social arena, and the arts and culture as well.
I want to read
a journal. Yeah. Hey, one of our journals was dedicated to hip-hop.
Okay.
And the meaning of hip-hop in our community today, and in the interdisciplinary approach to that as well.
Yeah, I want to chime in a quote from College G. Woodson. I mean, it's funny, I can't find a picture of him smiling anywhere. He was such a serious man, a serious scholar, a serious black man. He was on a mission. This quote says, "History shows that it does not matter who is in power or what revolutionary forces take over the government. Those who have not learned to do for themselves and have to depend solely on others never obtain any more rights or privileges in the end than they had in the beginning." That's College G. Woodson from his book, The Miseducation of the Negro. And I spent some time down in Ferguson, some days down there interviewing people and observing for myself in the aftermath of the Mike Brown shooting. And it's very interesting because I think about next year will be the 50th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act being passed. And since that time, we had over 5,000 black elected officials. But you look at the prison population, who's in the prisons, or what's going on as far as unemployment rate in the black community. And keep on echoing back to what College G. Woodson said in his book about some of the things that should not even be relevant today. But I also look at the fact that people do think that voting is the final solution. And I would say they're wrong because people say, well, there's no black people in power in Ferguson, in the government. But I know I'm in Memphis. We got black mayors. We got black city councils. We got a black police director. Our police department has led the nation. We had over 23 civilian deaths by police over the last 2 years. That has not been really talked about nationally. But when I tell people that in Ferguson, they say, wow. And in Ferguson, the homicide rate in 2012 was only 2 people got killed in 2012. And in 2010, only 0. Nobody got killed in Ferguson in 2010. Now, this is a community outside of St. Louis, about several hours away from Chicago. But yet people always make that claim that black folks living in areas with majority black can't get along. But I just showed you through data that, hey, they're not really killing each other in Ferguson. You know, they got together on some things, but the thing about it is the mistakes I saw on the ground was they didn't know about their history. A lot of things were happening. They was not aware of Freedom Summer 64, some of the people. They just knew they were sick and tired of being sick and tired, like Fannie Lou Hamer said back in the day. They didn't understand some of the things that were done right and some of the things that were done wrong. And when I talked to Reverend C.T. Vivian one time, he told me one of the greatest mistakes of the movement from 50 years ago was that they did not really institutionalize the history. They did not pass along the history because even when they were student protesters and whatnot in Nashville back in 1960s, even though these were black men and women from the South, a lot of them, even back then, didn't know their history of who they were and where they came from. I'm talking about the people that we hold in high. A lot of them didn't know the history. So he said one of the felons of the movement was not knowing the history.
Yeah, and that was the time our organization was established to make sure that people would know. But the other piece to Ferguson, I think, and what comes to mind to me out of Ferguson is the whole idea of police and policing, and whether or not we are employing, and I'm not only talking about Ferguson, I'm talking about our country, right. Black and white, the ethnicity. The perception of policing in America has changed to be really about more militaristic than community-oriented, and to be there to protect people, and for people to have that perspective that they are partners in the society and not there to, harass them or to see how many guns, how many shots they can make. I think we really have to look at who are the policemen and women and police personnel in all of our communities, and to find and to make sure that the whole idea of policing is looked from a perspective of being community-based and community-focused. We're going to be in trouble otherwise, because no one is going to want to be a policeman but a policewoman. But those who are militaristic and want to, when they shoot somebody, they have to shoot them 10, 20, 15, 20 times.
Right.
So inhumane. As if they're really trying to kill the enemy. And that's what military people do, but that's not what community policing is about.
Right.
Yeah, Sheila makes a very good point there. The barbarism that is displayed in these acts of violence, it speaks to a deeply rooted problem in the psyche and the mentality. Some people I've talked to in law enforcement, for example, they have said that a prospective police officer, someone in training, someone that they are screening to take a job as a police officer, needs to be evaluated on his or her views with regard to people of different ethnicities and cultures and backgrounds, and that there needs to be some screening that needs to take place with respect to people's attitudes. Now, of course, people can fudge and misrepresent themselves on any kind of test, but I have friends in law enforcement who believe that there should be some kind of litmus test, on this very subject of how a prospective police officer would handle a certain situation involving someone who doesn't look like him or her. And, to actually shoot someone in the head and you're going to be killing them, when you could use other means to subdue them, as I say, speaks volumes about people's attitudes and mindsets and behaviors. And these are people who are trained to be protectors of people in society. And that's what's so scary about this situation. But again, you look at it from a historical perspective, we know that law enforcement, police officers were Klansmen. And, they were allowed to do many heinous things towards black people, and so some people today seem to think the Klansmen have come out of the closet, they've put their white robes aside, and now they've traded them in for police uniforms.
I mean, some of the original police in this country were slave catchers. They were slave catchers. I mean, how some of the policing started in Missouri, slave catcher. But the thing about it is, you don't have to go that far in history. You can go back to, next year will be the 30th anniversary of the MOVE organization getting bombed by the police in Philadelphia under a black mayor. A sitting black mayor allowed black folks who were civilians, who were not representing any type of real threat to the system. They just want to be among their own selves and organize among their own selves as a community, were bombed by the police. You look at Tulsa, Oklahoma. That was the first time an airplane was used to bomb a city, Black Wall Street, that section of Tulsa. So, black folks always been collateral damage. If you look at Wilmington, North Carolina, 1898, people don't even know about this. The state of North Carolina did a 6-year study to look at the effects of what happened with Wilmington race riots of 1898. They always call them the race riot, but you could go to East St. Louis, 1917, how they were just massacring black folks. I mean, Miles Davis talked about how this had an effect on his psyche. growing up in that part of the country, in the Midwest, but they were actually taking black babies and throwing them back into burning buildings. You were white folks doing this. So when I look at them using all this police force in Ferguson, the fact that tear gas has been outlawed since 1993, you don't supposed to be using tear gas on anybody because it was banned in 1993. The fact that the police can actually, they are allowed to use tear gas against people who are protesting peacefully. Like I said, the Ferguson, yes, they got some high crime in terms of robberies and whatnot. That's because a lot of it has to do with economics. But in terms of like homicides and stuff, it's very, very low. Like I was safer, around black folks on Canfield Drive where Mike Brown was lynched at midnight than I was around the National Guard or police during the daytime. I felt the most safe around the black folks in that community, on that in that section of town. So it's like we don't know a lot what's going on because I look at the fact that people always think about they think about Freedom Summer. They think about, the sheriffs down in the South, being Klansmen and whatnot. But you always had that type of mentality with the police. Even with black police, look at Chicago. Who was the policeman that shot Fred Hampton Sr. in the head? It was a black cop. They killed him. They sent a black cop in to shoot him in his head.
Now Ron, I tell you, you impress me. You are a student of history. You know your history, Mr. Ron. Ron, it's an understatement for you. I really appreciate y'all. I mean, I'm so excited about what's going on next week. I just can't wait. Yes. You have walked us through one-on-one on policing in America. And just as you indicate, the very beginning of policing, especially community policing, local community policing, was because of slavery. Right. They wanted to make sure you're gonna always, and they did have crimes, and people were white people committed crimes, of course, as well.
Right.
So this whole idea of the whole pathology, if you will, of us being evil to those who were supposed to be there to protect, is very consistent in African American history. And you just pointed it out, all those examples, and you went way back there with slavery, and that's where it started, with blacks and whites whites taking advantage and using their power of weapons and authority to take advantage of black people. You just described, and that's exactly what happened, and it started in slavery, and that has been consistent in our history. But you just pointed out, when is it going to end? When do we start? We are still where we were when Dr. Woodson started our organization, in the sense of that mentality of, of evil or, bad and good, and white being right and black being wrong, however you want to describe it. That is that consistent theme in race relations in America. We mentioned W.E.B. Du Bois, who was, we already mentioned, the first PhD, black PhD from Harvard in America. He was a sociologist, though, and like Woodson, he really founded sociology in America, not just black sociology. Right. Sociology in America, and that's another story. But he said that the problem of the 20th century will be race, and it is still with us. We still have the problem, and Ferguson is just the latest example of that for us, that the problem of race in America and race relations, something needs to happen. I said to my husband the other day, I think we need a Truth and Reconciliation Committee in South Africa. After apartheid was over, and blacks being the majority and whites understanding that somehow they had to try to remain there. And I think a lot of it had to do, Bishop Tutu, this was his idea, and he was over the commission. And the commission allowed people of all races to come and testify of the wrongs that they did with no, penalty. They could come and tell this commission to get it out, And I think a lot of times on both sides, and America is so much more than black and white now, but it is the root of who we are before all the other ethnicities. And, of course, We know the story of Native Americans. But the point is, we need a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to allow us to just come and talk to an official body, just as Bishop Tutu did in South Africa, about what you did, wrong or right, but mainly wrong, black or white, mainly, and about relationships with each other, negative ones.
Mm.
I think you're on to something there, Sheila, no doubt about it. And I think some people felt that with the election and re-election of President Obama, that we had taken a major step forward in race relations in America. And just the opposite effect has seemed to occur, because when you have members of Congress who vow that their number one job is to defeat the sitting president at the expense of moving the nation forward in creating jobs, creating opportunities, providing more resources for our schools, addressing the immigration situation in this country, they would much rather put all of their attention and focus on defeating this black man in the White House, and the country regress. I mean, you can't say that we're even on pause. We're regressing in many ways. And another point I want to make is that the most segregated day of the week is Sunday. It remains true to form in 2014 as it was in 1915. It's the most segregated day of the week. And there is fundamentally a distrust. And when you talk about having a truth and reconciliation, that, in my judgment, really needs to be examined and really put forward as a beginning, as a starting point to help break down these barriers of distrust and people having hidden agendas. This whole business of white supremacy and black inferiority, those are deeply rooted beliefs that simply have no place in the 21st century going forward.
Well, you know, one thing,
we have to find ways to coexist.
There are precedents in this whole idea, even in America, because with Clinton, the Clinton administration, one of the things I do commend President Bill Clinton. He had a national commission on race. Right. And one of Dr. Woodson's, what we call boys, who was descended sort of as a historian, John Hope Franklin, was chair of the commission on race. It was an initiative that, went around and did some of the same things I'm talking about, and they made some recommendations. But one of our problems as a country, as American people, is okay. Now that he's gone, Clinton is gone. It wasn't established as an institute, a government body, and so we moved off of it. But he started that, and of course we know when you mentioned President Obama and the perception and the reality, President Carter was one of the ones who pointed out early in the game that it was about racism when all of these things that you just mentioned, Roy, happened against the president, just blatant racism. But, we have to continue to try to push for that, and it would be nice if our president, before he leaves, would reconvene or convene some group to begin to talk about that. Because he's been in this position. Think about it. With, what's his name, Trayvon Martin. come out and be real. He had to come out and say, that could have been my child. Yeah. And he talked about having been followed in department stores when he was younger. So he understands the reality of being black in America and this issue, this negative force between blacks and whites. Why he wouldn't do something really to accentuate the reality after Ferguson, really.
Yeah, well, you know that Attorney General Eric Holder, early in the administration, said we were a nation of cowards. Yeah. In addressing the race question, and of course he got a fair amount of heat for that. But I think you're onto something there as well in terms of the president putting a more structured approach to it and addressing it now. He has taken stabs at it, with some of his speeches and his remarks and so forth. But actually getting down and dirty on the subject as his predecessors did is something that he could potentially focus on going, in the remainder of his second term.
I know. I think
maybe you all are.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Maybe you all will do that in Memphis. When we come to Memphis, you all will come out with a resolution.
Right.
That should happen in Memphis for the president and send it to the president. Tell him the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to deal with race and racism in America.
My thing is
you put that on the floor, and I'll support it.
All right, I'll follow the lead. But, the thing about it is, like, going back to Mary McLeod, Bethune, and those people, I don't think a lot of us really have an understanding what is happening. See, like, a lot of times people confuse racism with, like, they say black folks could be racist, too. Black people in this system cannot be racist. I could be prejudiced. I could be biased. I could be hateful. Those are human emotions. But I do not have the power to deny white people anything in this system. I cannot deny them housing or employment or anything in this system that is relevant to their survival. But this is a system of white supremacy racism. This is not a illness. This is a system that makes black people sick. It makes black folks ill. It gives us hypertension and diabetes and all type of illnesses, high blood pressure, whatever. But this is a system we're dealing with. This is not an emotional thing. This is an actual system that chooses one group of people over everybody else, that gives one group of people privileges and access to resources and deny everybody else privileges and access to resources. The truth about affirmative action benefited white women more than any other quote-unquote minority group. That is not a emotional, that's a fact. Who is suing law school? White women are suing law school. They're using white women to dismantle affirmative action, but they were the beneficiaries of affirmative action. The women's rights movement, the feminist movement, benefited greatly from the civil rights movement. Everybody benefited from the black people blueprint, but black folks. But I would say this about Obama. Obama, I went to the inauguration both times. I voted for him both times. But the thing about it is voting is not the final solution. It's like what Franklin Roosevelt told A.L.L. Randolph about discrimination in the military industry complex. He said, yeah, it's true. It's correct what you say, but make me do it. Frederick Douglass said, power concedes nothing without demand. Mary McLeod Bethune was the velvet glove. A.L. Randolph was the iron fist. You got this is how you got to do it. We don't understand the dynamics of system at play. It's not on Obama to do what is right. It's on us to do it. We got to force Obama because,
that's right.
To get past the Tea Party Republicans. Well, the people wanted it. I can't do nothing about it. But we always say, well, it's on him. No, it's on us. This is our definitive moment in history. This is our moment. This is our time.
Right.
Exactly. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but this is exactly what Woodson and those who founded our organization did at the time. It's up to us. There were historians for hundreds of years in America writing history that excluded us or marginalized us.
Right.
And Woodson and the people who supported him said, it's our time to do this. We have to do this. And you were saying the same thing. there are things that we have to do, and you also indicated a very important point, and it's about organization. That's one of the reasons why I support ASALH. We have to have organization in order to do anything, to get anything done and have positive outcomes. So really it's about organizing as well. Like you say, we can vote, and it's important for us to vote because voting depends on so many things.
Right.
But it's just part of your duty as a citizen in the political process. You have to make sure that you are participating in some other way to make sure that our democracy...
Hello?
Sorry?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Dr. Sheila. Go ahead, finish your thought.
Well, I was just saying, it's just your point just made me think. It motivated me to think the importance of organization in terms of addressing the needs of people, particularly people in this sense who need some advocacy, because advocacy is very important as well in terms of organization.
I definitely agree, and also like thinking outside the box too. I had talked to Julian Bond and what's the guy named Benjamin Jealous at the Freedom Summer 50th conference. I asked him a question during a Q&A session, and I was saying this. I said, you know what? Everybody has a lobby. People who are getting things done through the Obama administration, they have a powerful lobby behind them, like, you know, immigration, like the Latinos, the gays, you know, the white women. Everybody have a lobby, the Asians, except for black folks. We don't really have a real lobby because what I told them, I said, checks that don't bounce right policy. They set policy. You could be a felon, but if you have, like, financial resources, you can buy the vote. You can buy politicians. You can buy policy. You know, you don't have to vote as an individual, but you can actually buy people. And I think that's missing with us. Because I told somebody recently, I said, a Jewish kid would never get killed in Williamsburg by the police. You never hear about an Italian kid getting killed by the police beside an alley. So these folks, they got economic power. They got buy into the system. They own stuff. They control things. I don't know, some noise in the background. Brother Roy.
Okay, yeah. Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry about the noise in the background. I'm actually en route. You're absolutely right, though. There is not that power base that is needed to react and actually be proactive to even prevent those kinds of atrocities from occurring. So we have our work cut out for us, without question. I mean, it's, you know, the voting issue, the follow-up that's required after casting the vote, the level of participation. We still have fundamentally, I think, a challenge with a mindset and attitude that people have that they're no longer, that this system doesn't apply to them. That you know, this is not our system. We didn't create it, and so I'm just going to be going through the motions of life, taking whatever I can take, whatever comes my way, and just kind of let the chips fall where they may. You know, that defeatist attitude is not going to take us anywhere, period. And so that's a attitude and mindset I find even among our younger generations that's rather disturbing.
Well, let me ask you all this, because I don't want to participate in a woe is me kind of perspective to the extent that we don't celebrate some, but be creative as well. So let me ask you, given all we see and know in terms of race relations in America and where we are now, if we were going to propose organization that leads to power, what would you propose? And I'm using Woodson and the other three founders as an example. You know, they got together just 4 guys.
Right, 4 guys.
I'm sorry, 5 guys. 4 with him, and they did something. They organized, just like you all just described. You know, you have to organize. You're talking about power. I'm not saying that you have power to be abusive and to buy the system, so to speak, but to do the right thing in a way that everyone benefits, especially our people. What would you propose?
Well, Sheila, I'll tell you, fundamentally, I think that we have institutions and organizations currently in place that just need new energy, new life, new leadership. Their structure, even, you know, when you look at the Congressional Black Caucus, they're supposed to be there defending and the rights and the concerns of African Americans and also their constituents in general. They're supposedly an activist caucus. We have, of course, the NAACP, the Urban League, the association. We just need, I think, people committing and recommitting to coming together through these channels. I mean, Al Sharpton has his National Action Network, and people understanding that there really needs to be a commitment and a focus that's really kind of lacking for, you know, for Ron and I were talking earlier about distraction. You know, there's just so many distractions today in this life, and people have difficulty focusing. Ron has been saying some things that I've heard Dr. Francis Cress Welsing speak about in terms of white supremacy, racism, racism, white supremacy. And, I mean, Dr. Welsing offered some concrete solutions and direction many years ago, some 30 years ago, with some fundamental approaches to life, like, you know, you should not think about bringing a child into this world until you are gainfully employed and you have, you know, at least gotten through high school and maybe some college. She even talked about, you know, people shouldn't really seriously think about getting married before. Men, she said, shouldn't get married before the age of 28, and women not earlier than, you know, the age of 25. I mean, she was very specific in terms of how black folk should consider approaching, not just consider, but actually carry out fundamentally their approach to life and take individual responsibility, and as a consequence come together collectively to make a difference. Because we have institutions in place. The church, powerful institution in our community that needs to do more outreach, needs to get beyond the 4 walls and really get down and dirty in our communities and help bring our people through certain trials and tribulations that we're experiencing. So that's what I would say would be take full advantage of what's already in place. President Obama has introduced My Brother's Keeper. How can we all support that?
Ron, what would your response be to what?
Oh, Lord. I was just thinking about that. I was just going in my head. I said, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, but we got to start looking at the history. I would say one thing, people must know before they can act on anything, like A.L.L said, people must be informed before they can act. So we need freedom schools. Like I talked to a lot of veterans from SNCC and Civil Rights Movement. I like talking to people older than me. I always make it a point every day to talk to people older than me and people younger than me. So so I could stay informed. But the elders always said we didn't go back to giving them freedom schools. No, we need freedom schools to educate people, because what Dr. Wilson said is ideal, but the reality is we got babies having babies, right? You know, we got people dropping out of school, they're having kids. I got friends in their early 30s, they're grandparents, okay? That's the reality. You don't go to war with the army you want. You go to war with the army you have. And how do you train that army? So we need knowledge being imparted, information being disseminated. And also the church, the black church, man, we went from producing people like Nat Turner, Harriet Tubman, Bishop Henry Turner, Richard Allen, guys, Oswald Jones. They started the black church here, but now it's been compromised. It's always been a strong force for social good in our community for a long, long time, but it's been compromised by that trickle-down money from the government, that faith-based initiative money or the FBI money. So it's compromised because people are thinking with their checkbook instead of with their conscience a lot of times when it comes to those type of people leading any type of movement that's going to really get social justice for black people, because black life has no value in this system unless it's being exploited and manipulated. For example, President Obama, with all due respect to him, he came out for Trayvon, but he didn't talk about Mike Brown until after Robert Williams died. He talked about Robert Williams before he talked about Mike Brown and Ferguson. Or you look at the fact that an Oklahoma cop recently is out on bail. This Oklahoma cop has raped 8 black women while on duty. He broke into one black woman's house in March and raped her before her boyfriend. This is an Oklahoma City or Oklahoma cop. Just got out on bail. It's really been quiet because all the other stuff going on in the NFL scandal and whatnot, but nobody's really talking about that. How black women have no value in this system, black men have no value in this system, black children have no value in this system. And I look at both of you all, Brother Roy and Dr. Sheila, y'all come from an HBCU background. Like I talk to Brother Dick Gregory all the time. He said, if you take 100 accomplished black folks that we have produced over the last 100 years, almost 100% of them have a connection with an HBCU. They either went to HBCU or they tied at HBCU. But the HBCU as an institution is under attack right now with a black president. Funding is being cut and undermined by these institutions. So, I mean, you look at what's going on right now, I just think the biggest thing is how can we get some type of intergenerational dialogue going between the elders and the youth? Because I look at the young people, they're like soldiers without generals. They're like an army without a nation to defend right now. Cause I got a lot of hope and spirit in these young people. I'm not an old person per se, but I'm in the middle. You know, I'm in my 30s. If you look at history, a lot of our greatest leaders are normally cut down and neutralized in their 30s, whether it be Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Dr. King, Medgar Evers. You look at Africa, Stephen Biko, Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba. They all, I mean, something about the black male that makes you the most feared and least respected person on the planet. For some reason, they are afraid of black men, especially in their 30s. So it is fascinating. I think that with the Congressional Black Caucus has been a letdown. They are the reason why so many black folks are in jail now, because they're okay with President Bill Clinton, the crack coke sentencing policy back in the 90s, where you got more time for selling and distributing crack. You did cocaine, which was considered a white drug back then. The greatest congressperson we ever had in history was Congressman Adam Clayton Powell Jr. He did more than anybody in the history of Congress to help black people. And you look what happened to him. So we did as much as we could in that scenario. I think we need to look at different alternatives to approaching this problem. But we must understand that white supremacy is a system. It's not an illness. White folks are not sick per se. They are in power. And nobody in their right mind would ever share power with somebody else. I don't care who's in power. Why would you give up your power? So we got to think about it. Even though, yes, we got good white friends and good white people, they have benefited from the sins of their ancestors, and they continue to benefit. Wall Street was built by slaves. The first commodities traded on Wall Street were black people. I mean, Harvard was built by slaves. Brown University was built by slaves. A lot of these insurance companies, Aetna, the largest insurance company in the country, would insure slaves for slave owners. They would issue insurance policy for slaves, for slave owners. So everybody has benefited from the exploitation and manipulation of black folks, but black people, really. You know, like Thomas Edison, what Brother Roy said earlier about the patents. I mean, Thomas Edison had a whole bunch of black people working for him. He had Lewis Latimer, who developed the filament for the light bulb, who also designed the first phone for Alexander Graham Bell. You know, you got all these. I mean, look at George Washington Carver, who helped mentor not only Henry Ford with the auto plant, but also he gave a lot of ideas to Henry Wallace, the vice president under FDR before Harry Truman. Henry Wallace used these ideas to develop a company that ended up being sold decades later for almost $9 billion. So everybody has benefited from the exploitation and manipulation of black folks in the system for black people. So first we got to understand that. We got to get people informed about why we fighting for what we fighting for and why we should have justice.
Well, Ron, I think too, we shouldn't lose sight of the need for us to focus on something, and I think it should be our children. You and Roy mentioned this earlier in one way or the other. But we have to, and I love the idea of intergenerational relationships. And several of my colleagues have been dealing with this in the nonprofit world. Dr. Janice Diaz Johnson, she's at University in New York, but she has a foundation called Grassroots Foundation. And she has what she calls Wellness Wednesdays in Philadelphia and New Jersey, with girls and boys who they do exercise or dance or do something physical with a person who is a lot older, like an elder, like a grandparent. And they mentor them as well. And so we have to begin to kind of think about the future. We understand where we've been. We understand that we have come a long ways, and the fact that, a lot of us are doing well. So we have to be that talented tent that W.E.B. Du Bois talked about, being that for those of us who have higher education and who have certain skills and expertise. We have a responsibility to our children to interact with them. I love the idea. I'm going to do that as well intentionally to what you said you did. Someone younger and someone older. And that's my thing. I love kids and I love old people too.
Of course, I understand.
It's empowering. But the other point I was going to make is that my colleague here at Clark Atlanta University, Dr. Stephanie Evans, she's a member of ASALH. She's chair of the Africana Women's and History Department and Africana Studies Department at Clark Atlanta University. She has a new book out called Black Passports. And what she does is she takes travel memoirs of black people and use them for tools for youth empowerment. There are black people who, of course, in like Mary McLeod Bethune, of course, went to Europe, but she talks about a number of black people: Catherine Dunham, Dizzy Gillespie, Malcolm X, Angela Davis. They wrote about their trips abroad, and so Stephanie, what she does in her book is to write about that and to use this for literary mentoring for children. And so I'm saying that these are examples of some things we can do to plant seeds and to generate change, and at the same time empower our young people of who they are and whose they are and where they came from. All of that, is real important for us to start to do consciously as well. One of my sheroes is Marion Wright Elderman. I know you know her.
Yeah, definitely. I know her.
Yes. The Children's Defense Fund. Her history is phenomenal as well. But she has been a consistent advocate for children in America. And one of the things, and this is the other point I want to make about us supporting organizations as well, because we talk about the things we have to do, but somebody got to support stuff. You got contributions one way or another with your time or your money or your prayers or something, but make a contribution to the effort. And I love her because she's been doing this things with children. Of course, the Freedom Summer was all her thing. Freedom Schools, starting in Mississippi in the 1960s and so. But anyway, her thing is for the Children's Defense Fund is she doesn't take government support. She's all of the work she's done over all these years about children, advocating for children, especially black children in Congress. You know, you talk about who's advocating for us in Congress. You know, that's what she does with the Children's Defense Fund, trying to make sure that children, especially deprived children and disadvantaged children, have, value and respect and wake up every day in a healthy, safe environment. So the long short of this is that I'm saying that my response would be to make sure that we are doing something to provide an environment for our children to grow and thrive. And in that, we will see changes. And the other point is we have to make sure that we do some things across race lines as well. We understand our history, and the big elephant in the room is racism. And at the same time, we have to reach across the aisle, so to speak, and join forces with people who think similarly. I mean, like to say now, some of my good friends are white now. So there are white people who understand and support what we are saying here. And a good example of that is the election of our president.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. Our future is very much dependent upon how we pour into our children and what can be done to grow this whole dispel this distrust and people's agendas of dominating one group superior over another group, because at the end of the day, we're all here on this earth through God's grace and mercy, and we have to find ways to coexist peacefully. And there simply are channels that are currently in place, but people need to be held more accountable to follow through and deliver for improvements in our community. I think, though, it still starts with the individual and the family environment and structure that exists there within the community, ways that can help people better understand that there is a future, that things are not as doomed and gloomy as the media might want to portray and do portray night after night after night. Being in the public relations, media relations profession, we've heard the expression, image is everything.
Right.
And if negative images are allowed to prevail, that just breeds greater negativity. And so we've got to have more balance in the images that are portrayed in our music, in our film, in our books, in what's portrayed online on this internet. Seeing more positive examples of achievement and success that people can embrace and rally around. So this is very much part of Follow's mission as an organization. We want to disseminate and produce information that will be beneficial to the community and to organizations at large, help improve the life experience for African Americans as well as all Americans.
And really, that's why we're coming to Memphis, because we want to make sure that because what we do accentuate what is community stands out in the history and the culture and the life of Black America. And so Memphis is a grand place to do it. I know during the conference, my dear friend Judge D. Army Bailey is going to be speaker, one of the speakers, a luncheon speaker there. And everybody knows his name in Memphis, of course. And a lot of people probably don't know how, well, probably those outside in Memphis that he's a lifelong civil rights activist. And has written books on activism, especially that in California. And then, of course, we're going to be visiting the Civil Rights Museum. I know it's had a do-over. I can't wait to see it. Have you seen it, Ron?
I saw it. I've been there. I have not taken the grand tour yet, but I'm excited as well. I mean, what best time to take a tour with you all, coming in, the people that are the keepers of the Black history. I mean, it'd be awesome to see it.
And, but at the conference, we're going to be doing a number of things related to these issues. So there'll be, plenary sessions as well with some of the issues that we're talking about now. And so we want to encourage people to go to our website to find out all the details about the conference and our organization. We're going to be meeting there in Memphis from the 23rd through the 28th at the Peabody Hotel, right, Roy?
That's correct, yes. And the actual kickoff for the convention is on the 24th, and we have quite a number of sessions planned. One in particular that I'm very interested in will be Stax Records, Soul in Memphis after the King assassination. I'm really looking forward to the discussion on that. We have Mark Anthony, Daphne Brooks, Guthrie Ramsey, and Emily Lordy, who are the panelists for that. We have Pastor Lasimba Gray coming. We have former Mayor Willie Harrington, who is going to bring greetings, and just a host of native Memphians, as well as a wealth of noted authors and scholars from across the country. So Memphis is the place to be. September 24th, 28th.
You know that I'm always going to mention young people, but one of the traditions of our organization is wherever we go in the community, we gather young people together, and we call it Youth Day, and it's usually on a Friday, and that's when it will be that Friday. I'm not sure where it's going to be, but there's a day, and we do this everywhere we have a convention. We get high school students together, and we do exactly what we've been talking about with young people. We have young people, they are peers, like college students and high school students, talk with trained high school students in the city, in this instance Memphis, about Black history, to empower them to say no to drugs, to be sexually aware of themselves, just a whole gamut of all the issues, the hip-hop culture. So young people, it's kind of like a peer-led youth rally with young people in Memphis, and we're going to be doing that on that Friday of our conference as well. So our tradition is to make sure, and we always have, and I think Roy mentioned this, that we always have a religious ceremony service as well on this Sunday after the convention as well. So we have something for everyone. We want to encourage people who are listening to perhaps go to our website. It's not too late to register and to come to the convention, or at the very least, which I'm going to challenge our host to become a member. Are you a member of ASALH?
No, I'm not a member. I'm ashamed now. You got me like coming up to the altar. I'm not a member. Not yet.
Put you out like that? No, I'm not.
I need to be, though. I'm really enjoying the conversation.
But, the strength there's strength in numbers. We have about 4,000 or 5,000 members throughout the country, and several branches, in about 20 places. But it doesn't cost that much to be a member of ASALH. It's only $65, $70 to be a member. We have youth membership as well, and you get a lot for that. Not to mention, we have three bulletins. One is, I mentioned the Journal of African American History, but we also have a Black History month, a Black History bulletin that Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune encouraged Dr. Woodson to start back in the 30s, and it is designed for school teachers to teach African American history, and it's based upon the theme, as Roy mentioned. ASALH establishes and the theme for Black History Month every year, and the president writes a resolution regarding it using our theme. So it is a national theme, and it's become not just for Black History Month, but throughout the year, where people talk about the contributions of Black Americans. So we have that bulletin for teachers, and they meet standards. Teachers have to teach with certain standards, so we have actual scholars who teach and write curriculum through that bulletin. And in fact, our newest publication is the intermediate publication online. It's called FIRE, F-I-R-E, with an exclamation point. It's the brainchild of our current national president, Dr. Darrell Scott, and it's online, too. So if you go to our website, you'll see all these opportunities and resources, opportunity to come to the conference and opportunities to get resources to help empower you about what's going on in life and history of Black Americans. I also want to, since I'm talking now, invite people to come to Atlanta to our National Centennial Convention next year in 2015. We'll be celebrating our centennial, 100 years of writing history and celebrating life and history and culture. So we're inviting everybody to our party because it is about all of us, regardless of our standing life, regardless of our station and our education. Our organization is about all of Black America, celebrating all of Black America and our contributions, and empowering our young people as well. So we'll be in Atlanta next September 15. We're also going to go to Chicago and celebrate our founding, because that is where, as I mentioned earlier, we were founded in 1915 in Chicago at the YMCA. So we'll be there September 9th, 2015. I keep saying 1915, 2015. And then, of course, we have a luncheon every year in Washington. Is during Black History Month. And we celebrate our national theme, and we have a speaker who speaks about what the national theme is. And our national theme is a theme that says 100 years of African-American life, history, and culture. So, again, we're celebrating that. In February, we'll have our Black History Month luncheon as well. We want to encourage people to contribute to ASALH as well. We talked about power and the need to organize. Ron, you mentioned the HBCUs, how we have been challenged in our existence because of funding. We existed before. But listen, we existed before there was any federal funding for colleges and universities anywhere. That is relatively new in the history of America, where the government contributes money for young people to go to school. And so we did it before. Our universities and colleges were established without federal funding, and we thank God that there is federal funding. But we have to support our institutions as well. Those of us who graduated from these HBCUs, but not only that, like we pointing out here, those of us who benefit as a result of what the only place before the 60s to 70s in our country that Black people could go. John Hope Franklin, one of our premier historians in African American history, went to Fisk. And so before he went to Harvard. And so we have to support our institutions. So we are asking people to support ASALH. You can go online again to do that, become a member, or get the bulletins. There's a store there to do all of that, or just make a contribution. A lot of times we think it takes a lot of money to make a contribution. $20, $25. That's how President Obama raised so much money his first election. People were giving $10 and $15. So you don't have to give a lot of money. You just have to give consistently. Give $10 or $15 every year to ASALH and maybe one other organization, an HBCU, even if you didn't go to an HBCU, because there is a need, and the data shows that without us, we would be in a lot of trouble. Right, Roy?
Oh, no doubt about it. Every institution that from historically black colleges and universities to the NAACP, the Urban League, the SCLC, the National Football League, the National Basketball Association.
Right.
All of these organizations in many ways are indebted to Woodson and his colleagues and this association, because they made it, they almost made it fashionable and made it, certainly they made the subject of African American history and life and culture important and necessary, and they ingrained it and made it a part of American history in ways that I think today so many have benefited and not really truly realized and recognized how they benefited as a result of the courage and the vision of these men. And so what we're trying to do now is look ahead in the 21st century about ways that this organization, this association, can actually move forward and advance race relations in America, providing more data and research and having more breakthroughs in historical findings. We've not talked about this great museum that's being built in Washington. The Smithsonian is building the National Museum of African American History and Culture. This museum will represent in many ways an opportunity for African American history and culture to be reborn and reinvigorated, re-energized, to get people excited, younger people in particular. I tell you, this is going to be just an incredible museum when it opens in 2015 or early 2016, and people will come from all over the country and the world to see it. And I think the association will be a major beneficiary of the opening of that museum, because people will want to know more, and they'll want to seek out the association for more information, learning more about the contributions of African American men and women in this country and throughout the world. So these are very exciting times. It all begins in Memphis, September 24th to 28th. Ron, I know you're going to be there.
Right, definitely.
We're going to hang out at the convention and look forward to having a great time and making available a number of the speakers who are presenting for your program, future programs of what you're doing. I think what you have got going through internet radio is powerful, is awesome, and we salute you. I'll say this on behalf of Sheila and the association at large. We applaud your efforts, and we'll look to work together going forward as we continue to tell America's story, to speak truth to power and bring people together as we move forward as a nation.
I'll definitely agree with everything y'all said. Go ahead.
But I just want to just reiterate what Roy said in thanking you and what you do. I am so impressed. I love to hear people talk like they are historians and do something else and just love history, know history, and grounded in history like you are, Ron. So thank you so much for who you are and what you are doing. I did not know about your radio station, but now I know, and I'll be tuning in. I certainly want to hear some of this and encourage those listening to learn more about the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, founded by Dr. Woodson. We want them to consider being members, I didn't mention, but we have a speakers bureau. Sometimes people want folks to come in and talk about Black America, particularly during this next year, because we're celebrating all of life and culture and history of Black America. Right. So I encourage people to be in touch with us if they need speakers for whatever events say. And we want people to celebrate us. We want people to take not only February, but sometime during next year to celebrate Black America in some way through art, through music, through history, through poems, through social networking, whatever they can do. And finally, I would say in our mantra and theme, we say, if we don't tell them, the world will never know.
Oh, this is very powerful. I'm just excited. I'm just got all these ideas in my head. I'm first and foremost, I'm definitely going to join the association next week. And also, like, just to think about, you talked about Stacks, Brother Roy, but that neighborhood is really Soulsville, because you think about the fact that Aretha Franklin, the house she was born in, is still in that neighborhood. Johnny A's childhood home was arguably the first rock and roll star. His family home is still there. And Memphis Slim. And also, Jimi Hendrix had his film come out this year. His best friend, his family still live on the same block as Stacks, Larry Lee, who went to Hamilton High School, who met Jimi Hendrix in Nashville when he had a baseball scholarship at Tennessee State University. He actually played Woodstock with Jimi Hendrix. And he saw him days before he died as well over in England. But Larry Lee was also the band director for Al Green for a number of years. He passed away in 2007. But his family still live over there. And also, there's another film you did a couple of years ago, Brother Roy, Hallelujah, the first all-black movie produced by Hollywood that was filmed over there by Lamar Owen in that same neighborhood.
Yeah.
So this isn't one neighborhood you got there in Memphis with Black history. Then Black radio was founded in Memphis. Black media, WDIA.
Yeah.
The first all-black radio format, launched in 1948, I believe. So you got a lot of history here.
Yes, you do.
Hey,
yes, you do.
Sheila, Ron has taken me back. I can tell you, it's a blessing, brother. How you have managed to just bring it down home and share with the audience this rich history and that's just a brief snippet.
Yeah, brief, very brief.
Memphis really has to offer. So it was no brainer that we were coming to Memphis for our 99th annual convention as we observe the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So, man, that was special. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I'm going to save the rest for later, but I just want to enjoy y'all for this stimulating conversation, man. I really enjoyed this thoroughly, and I hope you all did as well. It's like y'all did. Got stayed for almost 2 hours, so I appreciate that for being on this Tuesday night. That was an honor, and I just want to read what you gave me, Brother Roy, about the association by supporting it. Join us and support the future study of African American history, life, and culture. The Association for the Study of African American Life and History, the founders of Black history, is celebrating its centennial anniversary in 2015. Make a donation today and help keep the study of Black history alive and well in schools and colleges across America. Visit the ASALH or the association website to learn more about the organization, the association, and make a donation today. We'll have that posted throughout our sites and whatnot, and I'll be tweeting all this stuff over again. So know thy history and know thyself. And I want to thank you all for doing what y'all do as well, and for inspiring me to be a better person. In the words of the great Duke Ellington, we love you all madly, and keep on producing and pushing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And that does it, family, for this edition. No, bless you all. This edition of We All Be Radio. I'm your host, Brother Ron. Until next time, keep on keeping on, everybody.